Hello, you're listening to Watchtower with Bob and Andrew. Sorry, John, do your name.
I'm Bob.
I'm Andrew. So this week we're going to be talking about capitalism, but to start with, we'll do our in the news segment. So first of all, what we're going to talk about is Jeremy Clarkson and his rather big social faux pas, where he allegedly, I'd say, smacked a producer after not being offered a meal that he thought was desirable. The issue with it's quite a good thing. It's quite impressive, isn't it? Like, it's a proper diva drop to start with. But yeah, should he be allowed his job back?
Can you remember the case over in America? I think it happened last year, where the white teenager stole his parents' car, killed a few people, and he got let off due to affluenza.
Oh yes, I can remember that actually.
Kind of like that.
Ooh.
You put someone in a situation where they've got everyone bowing to them, they just get so overinflated that they lose sense of themselves.
Yeah. For those who don't know, affluenza is a condition where you do not know better because of the amount of money you've inherited from your parents. So basically, your inheritance means you lose any kind of sensible common sense.
Yeah, basically, in some ways I can kind of understand it, because people want to get into a situation, especially like Clarkson, they don't have to deal with consequences for anything.
Well, he does, and he has in the past, because he got warnings over the previous things he did.
He gets warnings,
and he gets massive social judgments, doesn't he? But he's liked for his personality.
Yeah, that's it. He doesn't care about the judgment. They kind of make him laugh to an extent, I think. And people will always take him back, so he knows that because of who he is, he can just do whatever. It's alright, he's Jeremy Clarkson.
It's a similar thing, so I could bring Piers Morgan in here and say that plenty of people don't like Piers Morgan for the way he behaves, but he carries on doing it anyway, and he gets paid a lot of money for doing what he does.
Precisely. We can't blame people for becoming what society makes them.
Yeah. It's interesting because so Top Gear is one of the top 4 programs on the BBC. In total, they bring in about £150 million.
Yeah.
Which works out to about 3% of the BBC's annual operating budget. So it's quite a bit of money for them. And they get, how many views is it around the world? 20. It's sold in 214 territories. 5 million people in the UK, which isn't a great number, but I swear it's the largest around the world. I'll look that up, but there's a large number of people around the world. If there's 214 territories, it's quite impressive.
That's it.
So even though quite a few of this will be British speaking, English speaking, but yeah, it's incredible effect. So this is after Clarkson used the N-word before, with regards to different sports cars. And it's not the first time he's got in trouble, because they got in trouble over the number plate, didn't they, as well? In the
I don't remember that
Argentinian episode. Yeah. So what did the number plate read? Oh yeah, H98 H982 FKL, which is a reference to 1982 in the Falklands Islands, and when they lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's understandable that there is. It's almost like trouble follows him, or to the Top Gear crew in a sense.
That's the thing. You've got to put something like that. How much of that would have been Clarkson? Was he the one that turned around and said, "Let's put this on here," or is it going for some controversy because he is a controversial figure? Why not feed into it? It's just massive publicity for Top Gear.
I think, in a certain extent, that might be just as much the producers, because someone would have had to okay that.
Yeah.
Someone higher up than Clarkson would have gone, you know what would be really funny.
But again, it kind of comes down to the thing of what he's just done. If he smacked a producer because he didn't give him the right meal, he's...
Oh, no, it's because it wasn't hot. It wasn't because it wasn't the right meal, it's because it wasn't hot.
If it's a cold day.
Oh, exactly. God, we can't be serving people cold meals, can we? That's just substandard.
But when you've got someone that's used to getting everything that he wants, he's pretty much protected with most things that he says, and with the number plate as well, that kind of shows this kind of thing going off on an institutional level. He's working within a system where everyone tells him it's great outside, everyone in there tells him it's great, and that it can do no wrong, basically. And then when they start doing wrong, it's like, look, it's fine. You're all part of this, and we'll just sort out between us. It's the BBC and Jimmy Savile all over again.
I'm not sure it is.
Not quite that extreme.
No, well,
but
no.
Just showing just the effect that the institution can have on the individual.
So we'll ignore this bad thing because, hey, everyone loves you.
Yeah.
But it's true that everyone loves him. So there's a Bring Back Clarkson petition which has over 700,000 petitions and signatories, and an interesting Mail Online poll, poll finds that 70% of readers should believe, they believe he shouldn't have been sacked or should not be sacked, depending on when you're hearing this. Is it right to give the people what they want? So we give the BBC, so the BBC gets continued income from Top Gear. The people get what they want, but at the end of the day, Clarkson did something bad to one of his producers. Should he be punished to the full extent of the HR code within the BBC?
In a way, it should be just because it was a violent attack, rather than just being stuck up and actually, just saying you're worthless and everything like that. On that ground, I think it should be. But you've also, I think, people just get too caught up in it. I think you need to separate what Clarkson did on this one occasion from what happens on an institutional level, and look at everything kind of separately, and again within the context of what's happening.
Could you clarify what you mean by institutional level? Sorry.
Just within the BBC as itself, or how the BBC operates with various different bodies.
Okay. Yeah. So if this was any other business, I think Clarkson would be facing immediate dismissal.
Oh yeah.
Which is why it's really up for debate whether he should be here. If in reality the BBC will lose a massive chunk of income because Top Gear as a format will die when he leaves, and that could potentially mean cuts to other BBC services. So is it right to make others suffer for Clarkson's indiscretions? Is my next question.
That's a bit of an odd question for me because I have a problem with BBC's funding anyway. The fact that they get such a large amount from TV license, that's the word, when BBC is actually only 33% of what we watch now. So, one, I think that BBC should be having more advertisements or competing in different ways, like other formats, so Channel 4 or ITV, and look at it that way, and it doesn't really, the loss of earnings from Top Gear wouldn't affect it as much as it were an independent business that was standing on its own.
So just to clarify that, the BBC got in 2013 in their annual reports, they published that they got a total income of about 5 billion, which 3.7 billion is income from license fee holders. So when we work out what proportion of that goes to particular services, it looks about 60% goes on BBC One, about 20% on BBC Two, about 5% on BBC Three, and then the rest are fairly negligible after that, with 50% of expenditure going on television and about 14% going on radio. So it's quite an interesting split when you actually look at it. So they do have quite a high spend on their relative services. Yeah. So it would seem that if you did cut Top Gear, even though they'd have to then pay for something else to fill that slot.
Yeah.
So on top of that, they're making additional losses, and the BBC are currently trying to do their slimming down as well. I don't know when they're due to complete that, but that will be.
This is the thing. I think with the BBC at the minute, we've set it up so big that you're constantly trying to support something that's in a way doomed to fail. We want to discuss capitalism, and we're in a capitalist economy. The only way the BBC is standing is because we're keeping it built up.
But they're buying and selling goods, and Top Gear is one of those goods, and it's making them a great deal of money.
Yeah, but it's capitalism. Everything should be designed to fail. So they should be responsible for their actions in the same way that anyone else should be. The same. If Clarkson carries on like this and it affects it, then in all fairness, tough. It is the way that it goes.
I fully support his disciplinary action in the sense that I don't think the BBC should set a precedent by allowing this to go unpunished. But at the same time, I think that the money and certainly even the viewership that the show currently has would feel very alienated by the BBC, because that is ultimately what they watch it for. They watch it for Clarkson doing that.
Yeah.
Which is, as bad as it sounds, we don't know enough about the actual incident to say that it goes either way.
Thing, though,
it could be fully incited by the producer, or it could be Clarkson just acting out a cold food. It could even be a prank by one of the other two, as we see on the shows numerous times. We just don't know. So I think that's worth bearing in mind. But I feel like there's a middle way here that needs to be found. But at the same time, he needs to be punished for it. It's a very difficult situation for them.
Treat them the same as they would anyone else. If it's going to affect them that much, then they should have thought about that earlier. Maybe when he made the joke about all truckers killing prostitutes, or
something
like that. There's been plenty of times where they've had glimpses of this coming, so
yeah,
they've got to suffer the consequences.
He did get torn off by Ofcom for that one, I think. They received quite a few complaints. And he also compared a Japanese car to people with growths on their faces, which also got complaints to Ofcom. And he got complaints from mental health charities and Ofcom when he branded people who throw themselves under trains as selfish. And he was forced to apologise. He was forced to apologise for telling BBC One's The One Show that striking workers should be shot. Very much that is his personality, and that's why he's got a job. That is his job.
That's it.
To be that person.
But what can you expect when he does something like that?
Yeah. It's
you play with fire and you're going to get burned. You've got to suffer the consequences. Even the BBC is itself, not just Clarkson.
Yeah, I agree. They've just got to tailor it, really. Yeah.
They've just got to take it like a man. Shut up.
Yeah, I think it's almost time for the format to go anyway. How long has it been running for? It's been running for years. I looked this up earlier. Yeah, it's 80s or so. 1977 was when the format was first created, but the evolution, the new version we see at the moment was 2002. So we're looking at a good kind of 13 years now in this version, and for those who follow the show, certainly I feel like it's become more scripted. Well, I say more scripted. Obviously, it had an element of scripting to it before, but I feel like it's become almost, you can't pretend anymore that it's natural, if that makes sense. You can't be like, oh, that could have happened by accident. There's no element of that now. So it's almost time for it to take a rest.
I can't comment. I'm not really a fan, but it does. I don't know. I couldn't imagine having the same format on a TV show for 13 years.
No. Well, can you think of how long did Friends run for? Well, that was a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe 15 years? Yeah, I don't think they ran as long as... Was it? Oh, no, they did. No, 10 years. No, Top Gear's run for longer than Friends.
What?
Yeah. Maybe that's, the Friends termination of high quality programming. Not that I ever really watch Friends. But. Right. Should we move on to our key topic for today, which is our debate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to start, or do you want me to throw the gauntlet down?
I'll let you start.
Or do you want to do this bit?
No, that's from last week.
Right, so this week we're going to be talking about capitalism. Capitalism, what do you want to define it?
Basically, capitalism is just an economic system, so a way of producing goods for any society to function. And within capitalism, as everybody knows, it works by you go to a job, you do what they pay you to do, and at the end of the day, that's it. You produce goods in your work, finish, go home, watch TV, spend your money on the goods that not that you're producing, but the people in a similar situation producing. And it just goes on like that. So Andrew, do you want to talk about the pros of capitalism?
So the way this is going to work is that I'm very much on the side that capitalism is around, and that it may not be the best that it can be, but it can be the best it can be. Whereas Bob is very against it, and I'll let Bob clarify his own position.
For me, I think capitalism does have its good points, but I think as a system on its whole, I kind of look at it as on our human evolutionary step, capitalism's a bit of our teenage stage, and I think we're about ready for something else now. We've grown up enough.
Fair enough. Should we do this so that I'll do a point and then you can criticise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most sensible way to progress.
Yeah.
So we'll do the standards of living first. So the standards of living globally have gone up as a result of money flowing and globalization.
Yeah.
So globalization is a massive part of capitalism. So labour goes to the cheapest place. Cheapest place is often in the lowest class of living areas, and thus those areas gain money. Standard of living goes up. And then obviously the labour force moves on to somewhere else. So in the past we've seen this move from India to Taiwan to China, and you see all those areas now experiencing massive economic growth. Some of those, I think even, I'm going to check this, but I think some of those areas were relatively untouched by the economic crisis. But as a result of, I think they might be coming towards it now. No. But certain areas, because they have such high manufacturing rates, they have a higher export of goods, whereas we have a high export of services. They have quite a high export of goods, which allows them to continue profiteering. Do you want to go on that?
Yeah, I do get that. The standard of living does rise, but it can be said of most societies. When communism first started under Stalin,
Should we define communism for a start?
I don't really want to define it with Stalin because
no, that's not.
It's not really a good idea of communism. But communism is basically another economic structure based on the idea of community. That's where the root of the word is. So it's just the idea that within a community there'll be a natural division of labour where each produces the goods that they're able to produce to a high level, because it's quite hard to go into it really briefly, but it's kind of based around the idea that when all of your actual needs are taken care of, and you're free to develop how you will, you automatically go for what's interested in you and in your life. You build on that, and through that you're able to develop the skills that you need to function within a society.
Community-centric rather than
individualistic.
So lots of people would imagine the capitalist structure as a pyramid with certain individuals on the top and then a class system lower down.
Yeah.
Though later on I'll be making a debate why I think this isn't the case. But yeah, we'll carry on.
Yeah.
Obviously everyone gets a chance to work. But I think that's true of both scenarios. Actually, I think in a communist society, you'd be able to have the opportunity to produce and work and distribute your goods just as much as anyone does in a capitalist society. I think neither one has a particular pro.
That's it. But with that point there, that everyone gets a chance to go to work, when you look at the country, if for the amount of jobs that there is and the amount of people, it just doesn't quite add up. Not everybody has the opportunity to work, but the problem within a capitalist system is if you don't have the opportunity to work, you don't have that source of income. You're, in a way, put into a place where just because of where you were born and the conditions that you're in, if you can't get a job, you can't eat, you can't have a house.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that particularly high poverty rates. So mechanisms exist in place to prevent that kind of thing. So in this particular country, we've got the welfare state, who step in and will help individuals that are in that situation. While you can argue that doesn't go far enough, and I think we can probably agree that doesn't go far enough to help people in its current situation. But
this is part of my problem with capitalism. You seem to have a central structure which is forever springing leaks, and it's plug in and plug in and plug in. I don't think with what we do with capitalism actually goes for the roots problems with it.
What does a communist system or any other kind of system? We won't even necessarily stick to communism. We can discuss any alternative. Yeah. What would any other system do to work around this issue? So if I'm born into a high poverty rate area, what can be done to help me in my situation?
This is the problem with definitions of poverty. We're defining poverty from a capitalist system.
So my poverty is that I do not own a home, none of my family own a home, and my income is less than is required to feed me.
Well, in a lot of anarchist kind of societies,
should we define that as well?
Anarchism is not without rules, but without rulers, to put it simpler. So, rather than having a set social structure, it's people are educated to a place where they're able to live out their own lives.
No rules or laws.
Yeah.
So we're not talking like violence on the streets anarchy, not the traditional form. We're talking very much a utopian style anarchy. So peace. I know. Yeah. I'm playing it. I'm not playing that particular way to be annoying.
I just have really a lot of problems with the usage of the word utopia.
Happiness and
it has too many connotations.
Yes. So we're talking about a society that can exist and coexist happily without the requirement of laws. So no, like you shouldn't park on the double yellow lines. People just don't park on the double yellow lines because it inconveniences others.
Yeah.
But again, there probably wouldn't be double yellow lines because you just don't park where it's going to inconvenience others.
That's it. But a lot of these are based on the idea of mutual aid, which is first founded by Prince Peter Kropotkin from Russia. But it's linking into evolution, and the idea that natural selection, as in survival of the fittest, plays only a small part. Although it is a vital part, is only a key part in evolution. When you look at nature as a whole, it tends to be a lot of animals working in balance. A lion won't kill a gazelle unless it's hungry. Whereas, look at our blood sports, fishing, fox hunting, but it's kind of just going down that idea that every individual is, in a sense, in a situation that you yourself could be in. So it's going from that and just saying, I have what I need, you have what you need. As long as the basics are met, people are free to just live out their lives.
So how does that help me in my poverty situation? So my family can't live, there's no home, and I've not got enough food to eat. What does this system do to help me?
The community comes together as part of it. They'll provide housing, they'll provide food, make sure that the basics are met. From there, you're able to develop your life as you see fit.
So my next question is, why don't we promote these values within the society we currently have?
Because I don't think capitalism's really that bothered about it. Capitalism is the search for the individual. Okay. So if we are constantly promoting, and I know you get adverts for charities, but I don't feel that they're actually promoting.
If I if I
To
went
an
crazy
extent.
on the neighbourhood watch scheme, and I was like, if someone turns up at your door, you should offer them a place to sleep, right? You should offer them a meal, hot drink, place to sleep. And if they say they need that, then the community should provide that for them. And let's say this became something that was viable.
Yeah.
So let's get over the whole practicality of it and just assume that we can do it for the sake of the debate. Would that be closer to a more desirable way to run the current capitalist system?
No, because
in that regard.
In that regard, yes, but I wouldn't do it as part of capitalism, because capitalism just has too many holes in it as a system. You're on about promoting these values, but one of the main tenets of capitalism is consumption. That's consumption of resources, consumption of people, and consumption of wealth. People are trying to get that much money together. The influential people that have actually got the money, which they might not be setting what gets taught in our schools, but they can influence international law. They own a lot of our news coverage. I don't think we're necessarily in a way where it can just be that openly promoted. You look at the news, and when was the last time you saw anything other than, I think Channel 4 does a 15-minute segment, like once a week on a weekend, where they have a bit of, and half time it's not even positive news, it's just bringing up something that isn't usually highlighted, which could actually inspire this kind of idea. One that I saw.
So this is more a call for the redistribution of wealth. So this is the issue that you're bringing up. Not that the issue is there's a bottleneck of wealth in the hands of a few. Is that the ultimate issue, rather than wealth being
just
evenly
the
distributed.
Ultimate issue. It's one of the other problems with capitalism is, you do have this massive distribution of wealth, but it's also what is valued as part of the system. In capitalism, commodities enter into a social relationship. So rather than just having their use value.
What do we mean by commodities? Do we say like Facebook, even utilities, so
iPhones, clothes, cars, watches, jewellery. If you can buy it, it's a commodity, including even people.
Some things you don't even need to buy. So these are things you use online. Google is a commodity.
Yeah. But these are valued to such a high extent that even if you did redistribute the wealth, it's almost going more towards what a society values. So a society based on these values is, in a respect, going to be pretty empty, because if all that is for you to achieve is a bigger TV or a nicer car, you get a bigger TV, you get a nicer car, that has the social standing that you want, but you're still left in a position where you don't really have the emotional connection to anything. It's the very...
I'd argue the opposite here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in and say a massive word. What about individuality? So I can go to the high street right now and I can buy something and express myself in 10,000 different ways. Why can't I do that?
I'm not saying that you can't, but you're expressing yourself through everyone else's expression.
That's true. But
why listen to music? Why not make music?
I think that's perfect value, but I think that's a value of society that we can create that, and very much that's happening now. Look at the YouTube phenomenon. Like, if you search on there for people making their own music at home, you see it stacking up, and that's something that's occurring now.
Yeah, it is. But
we've never had the opportunity before.
This is one of the things. I think we are getting to the end point of capitalism.
Okay, so you see this as the end point rather than...
I think we're definitely getting close to it. Just with the connectivity that we're getting on the internet, people, like we were saying about YouTube, people are able to get this massive source for a big thing, whereas when you're on about going down to the high street, look at who owns all the brands. How many companies are actually involved on the high street?
Yeah.
Maybe about 2 or 3.
Yeah. It's probably interesting because the same 2 or 3 probably own all the rest as well, which is probably...
And then it's these kind of people that are owning media outlets, Google and Facebook.
Is that the issue then, the ownership?
It's not just the ownership.
So if we encouraged a local farmers market where we all brought goods and we all sold goods, those kind of situations,
that would be at least a step in the right direction, because I think for resource consumption and global pollution, we do need to look at going back onto a local level.
Do you want me to tell you? Do you want to tell me about that?
But as part of this, we also need to look at what we're valuing in society.
Yeah.
People always say with capitalism, you can go down the high street and you can get 10 TVs and 4 cars. You can have everything that you want, but we also need to look at it's not so much about what we want, but what we need. It's you can have 4 cars, but you can't drive 4 cars at once. You can have every label going, but you can only wear 1 t-shirt at a time.
That's true. But I can buy the nicest shirts. You can. If I went to a local farmers market and I bought a shirt that someone had produced, it probably wouldn't be as high quality. I say probably because they may be the most amazing seamstress ever. Or seamster. I don't know the gender of that. But they may be the most amazing clothes maker.
Yeah.
But the likelihood is that they're going to produce something of less quality than if I walk into, I don't know, one of the shops in the high street.
Well, I don't know. You look at the high street, and what is it? It's outsourcing labour to cheaper countries. You've said this yourself.
Which is globalisation. By doing that, we're actively raising their living standards. I say we're actively raising their living standards.
We're actively raising our living standards, and we're actively putting them in a position where they are dependent on us. It's wage slavery.
But we too were like that, though. If you look at the 18th century England, we were massive producers, and now we've moved more towards the third sector. So we produce electronic goods and virtual goods. So we produce music, films, and TV, and that makes a massive income, which is why we're so hit by the economic crisis. Banking is a major industry for us.
Again, though, banking is private sector. So with the bank and the national debt, this is an idea that
reference to last week.
I absolutely love, but with the national debt and banks, these are privately owned companies, owned by individuals that have created money, in effect. So when you go into a bank to take out a loan, you get a loan for £100,000. They say, there's £100,000, but that's okay, because you're promising to pay back £100,000 plus 10%. So that's fine, books balance. But you've just got money that's just appeared from nowhere. It doesn't have, to be fair, money isn't set against the gold standard anymore. It hasn't been since the 70s. It's just a fiat currency. So it has absolutely no value other than the value that we all put into it. But we're making money like this, and then we're saying you've got to pay off the national debt. One, there isn't enough physical cash in the world to pay off the national debt. So all that we're effectively doing is taking our money to pay off the national debt, which goes into the hands of these big people. And yet these are creating jobs, but the wages that we get from these jobs, we're spending it on the stuff that we're producing, which is going back into their pockets.
So why don't, as part of this capitalist system that we're in, why don't I make something and sell it? And then the money I make from selling it, I put towards paying off my piece of debt. Why don't you produce something tomorrow and sell it?
Because we still don't have enough cash.
But what the system kind of pseudo floats, though, it kind of balances out. So we know there's a national debt, and we know that we're struggling to pay off, but currently the reason why it's increasing is because of our spending. Capitalism itself increases money.
Precisely, but it's got nothing to set against. The problem is, you do have to spend your way out of a recession. All of us can spend every single penny that we earn. That is not going to make any difference to a company that's making 180 million profit a week, and that's just sat in some guy's bank account. That is the money that needs to be spent to get the economy going.
That's a tax thing, though. That's a tax and a monetary regulation thing.
This is the thing. It's you're in a situation where the people that are setting the actual laws. Look at what we were discussing last week with HSBC.
Absolutely.
We're not, in a sense, there's the elite who play their game and make as much money as they can. The rest of the populace is basically sat there kind of getting for the scraps, digging away at each little bit that we can and trying to secure some freedom.
So it is the money thing. So I've got this picture up on the screen at the moment. It indicates the top 1%. For anyone interested, if you Google 1% and then rich, or just 1%, 99%, you'll get a lot of information and background reading if you're interested in the topics we're talking about. And there's a great, I think is it Forbes, a Forbes list? Certainly, if you look at the Times Rich list as well, that's quite interesting.
Forbes usually do a rich list as well. I think Forbes do the Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah. The Economist as well has got a good one. It's worth a read because it's a very interesting breakdown. Yeah. If you're interested about anything we talked about, I'd say hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. Give us a shout.
Yeah, definitely. There was also, before we go, there was the tiger lilies.
Oh, yes.
Did I see on the thing?
Yes.
I checked out one of the videos on YouTube for Jack, and it wasn't what I was expecting, but it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I then checked out another one called Banging in the Nails.
Yep.
And I just laughed for 4 minutes straight.
Yeah. You won't expect it. It's been given 5 stars by The Guardian. I was fortunate enough to go see them last week, and I was really quite impressed, actually.
Yeah.
We kind of went in not knowing what we were expecting, but
that's it. I had no idea YouTube did, and the one video that I watched Jack it's based as questions that he's asking to Jack the Ripper,
yes,
to music, but it works so well it is almost a song.
Yes.
And then Banging in the Nails, just check it out for yourself.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Definitely worth
That's
it.
the Tiger Lilies. Hit them up on YouTube. Honestly, it's dark humour. It's definitely dark.
It's definitely dark humour,
but it's got a place.
If you give it a good thing, you could get some good stuff out of it. Definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. This is Andrew.
And this is Bob.
Thank you. I hope you have a good evening, good afternoon. We'll see. Well, we won't see you, but we hope you listen to us next week. Cheers. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.